Greetings fellow Whovians and welcome to Timey Wimey Review, where today I review the final story from season 24 of classic Doctor Who, Dragonfire, which was originally broadcast literally on its 24th birthday back on the 23rd of November 1987 on BBC One. Just in case you don't know the plot, the Seventh Doctor and Mel have arrived on the Trading Colony Ice World, where the Doctor would like to investigate the lost relic known as the Dragonfire. But the Doctor is not the only person in search of this lost artifact. A former acquaintance to the Doctor, Sabalon Glitz, would like to get his hands on the Dragonfire for his own monetary gains. And also there's the mysterious Kane, who wants to get his hands on the Dragonfire for his own evil plans. At the heart of this story, Dragonfire has some great interplay with all characters involved in this three-part adventure. Most notably is the two companions, Mel and Ace. We see the introduction of Sophie Aldred as Ace in this story, and it's pretty much a handing over the companion baton, out with the old, in with the new, where Mel is pretty much the screaming heroine, save me companion, whereas Ace is a bit more streetwise, a little bit more have a go hero. Even though she is scared, she has this tough exterior and a lot of Nitro 9 to help blast her way out of a situation. My favourite scene involving the two companions is their chance encounter with Kane, where Kane offers Ace the coin to become part of Kane's henchmen, and Mel suspects straight away that this is a terrible idea, it's a trick, and it's just a horrible ploy to sort of for Kane to just basically use Ace as a servant. Ace does reject it, even though there is temptation there to take the coin. I just liked all that interplay with the evil bad guy and the two companions. It's great to see Tony Selby return as Sabalon Glitz in this story. It's surprising that Glitz wasn't a recurring character throughout Doctor Who, really, especially in the Big Finish audios. I know the character returns in a few novelisations of Doctor Who after the original series run ended in 1989. But what we got here is just as fun as his previous encounter with the Sixth Doctor. I liked the interplay between Glitz and the Seventh Doctor in this story, especially when he rescues the Doctor at the beginning of part 2. We'll get to that a bit later. In fact, all the characters from the top down worked really well in Dragonfire. I liked that the Seventh Doctor and Kane don't really meet until the final episode of Dragonfire. I like that there was slowly building up to that, and I also liked it when the Seventh Doctor was distracting one of Kane's guards by talking a lot of philosophy, whilst Glitz was doing something in the background. I really liked that. All the other sort of background characters, they just all worked really well in this story. Sadly, the downfall to Dragonfire, very similar to Time in the Rani, is the rushed production. You can tell that they just didn't have the time to just iron out some of the bumps from this story. It's most notable for the Seventh Doctor himself. Now, Sylvester McCoy has done a really good job here and marked improvement from Time in the Rani, but it's just some of the comedy elements that just didn't quite work in this story, most notably when he's slipping and sliding around on the ice whilst all the rest of the characters are just walking normally. Now, I think they would have got away with it if the characters, mentioned that, why are you sliding about? Is it really difficult in them shoes? But they didn't mention it at all, so it's kind of as if the director was telling the actors to do one thing and let Sylvester McCoy do his own thing, and the two just doesn't quite gel. And whilst we're talking about the Seventh Doctor, let's talk about that cliffhanger. Probably the worst cliffhanger in the show's history. Let me know if you think of any other worse cliffhangers. When the Doctor is literally hanging off a cliff. Yeah, doesn't work at all. I know Andrew Cartmel has made sort of reasons why the Doctor did that, and it just didn't show properly on screen. And to be fair, they did try to retcon that in the second episode, where Mel and Ace are saying, well, we have to go down to get across, but it just wasn't shown properly in episode 1, and it must have left everyone confused. I remember watching this for the very first time and just going, what what is all that about? Is it some kind of weird inside joke metaphor of cliffhanger within a cliffhanger? Yeah, just again, just looked like rushed production. And also the Dragonfire costume itself. Now, the costume, don't get me wrong, looks really good, especially with the prosthetic head when it reveals the crystal inside the dragon. That looks all really good, and the steam coming out of it, and the special effects with the lasers coming out of its eyes. It's a pretty cool dragon. But what it would have done, would have served it better, is again more time to just work out how to walk in that costume and sort of portray a character, because that must have been so difficult for the actor. I think he did a good job with the time that he had, but it just, some scenes make it look a little bit more goofy when it's sort of like got his hands sort of walking out. It's as if it's just trying to catch his, the actor inside is trying to catch his balance and not falling over, and it just made it look less scary when it's sort of walking around like that, where at the beginning it did look quite menacing. Having said that, I did enjoy this story for the most part. It had really good pacing, but if anything, I think this story would have been better if it was a 4-part episode instead of a 3-part episode. It could have just fleshed out some more of the characters, because we had some really, really good characters in this story, as I've mentioned earlier in this review. I think there could have been a more redeeming story arc for Glitz, especially when he sold all of his crew to Kane earlier in the episode, and then looking to seek revenge when his ship got destroyed by Kane. I did like the Kane sort of vengeance is his fuel type of thing. It didn't quite pay off as we saw in Dragonfire. I think again, if it had a bit of an extra episode to really fine tooth that story arc for Glitz, and the doctor sort of teaching him that there is a better way of living. We kind of got it, but it could have been more. Same goes for the little girl in the blue dress. I didn't get her story arc in Dragonfire, so excuse my ignorance and please correct me in the comments if you knew what her story arc was. My guess is, and this is what would have been great if we had that fourth episode, is she witnessed the sort of history repeating itself in terms of the 3 women in a similar situation. So we have the little girl now being abandoned by her mum, Ace, where she is now sort of on her own in the 12 galaxies, being tempted by the manipulation of Kane and what he wanted to give her or offer her, and what Belez happened, or what happened to Belez, where she succumbed to Kane's advances when she was a very similar age to Ace. So it kind of stops that history repeating itself and that sort of weird, sinister grooming that Kane sort of did. Overall, I am going to give Dragonfire a TARDIS rating of 6.5 out of 10. I was going to give it a lesser score than Time and the Rani, but because the characters were so good and it was such the heart and soul of Dragonfire, it deserved to be on a level scoring field. I really enjoyed Edward Peel's performance as Kane. I thought he was a great villain. He knew when to be absolutely straight-laced and sinister, and when to be melodramatic and over the top, and I really liked the special effects for his exit. Sabalon Glitz was a great character and had a good story arc overall. It could have been a bit better, to be fair, and same with the faults that I did have for Dragonfire, but we had a really good introduction of Sophie Aldred as Ace, and we know that there are better things to come for her, and of course the 7th Doctor, and we had a fairly good departure for Mel. I liked the final scenes between Mel and the Doctor. Poor Bonnie Langford, happy birthday for her, by the way, from a few weeks ago. I know Mel was probably one of the most underdeveloped characters in Doctor Who's history, but again, Bonnie Langford did as much of a good performance as she could with the character that she was given. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts on Dragonfire. Do you think it's ranked higher or lower than Time and the Rani, or do you think, like I have, and it's about the same? Next time on Timey Wimey Review is the return of my top 5, where this time I'll be looking at the top 5 saddest companion departures in Doctor Who history. Until then, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like the video, share the video, and subscribe to the channel. And as the good doctor once said, Think about the homeless traveller and his old police box, with his days like crazy paving.